This song really is quite a good summary of the Dare to Ask adventure, because it's a really good example of learning to ask for something or daring to ask for something that you would naturally run away from. It's a really good summary of the Dare to Ask kind of story, in which you kind of learn to ask for those things that are difficult, and you flip your thinking on its head, and rather than asking and begging God to relieve you of something, you embrace it, and you decide that you're going to learn what you need to learn through what you're walking through, because God is very deliberate about where he leads us. Your Great Rescue is the final track on the Awakened EP, but it was actually written first. It was written many, many years ago during this 15-year season that I went through of being very hidden and passed over. And it was a moment where I realized that I was walking through a very dark and challenging storm, but I had learned through the storm that this moment was really one that was in and of itself a rescue plan from God. And so I remember a very significant moment where my prayers shifted from asking God to rescue me away from the storm to realizing that he'd led me right into the eye of that storm very deliberately. And it was that moment of realizing that I've been fighting so many things that God has actually led me into. And so it's taken me a lot longer to learn the lessons because I've been fighting against that process. So the song really came about as a result of that realization that this storm and this crazy circumstance that I've been begging God to take me out of is actually his rescue. It saves me from myself, because we like to fix things, we like to be in control of things, we like to prepare for things and preempt things. But sometimes God sends a very sudden storm out of the blue, out of nowhere. And it's very deliberate. The suddenness is deliberate because it enables us to be caught off guard, so we don't fix it ourselves. And we're found floating around in this huge expanse of water, if you like. And the only way of being rescued is him. And I think that was something that I learned through that season, and the song came as a response to it. It fits in with the Awakened devotional and journey because it's part of the awakening we go through when we realize that what we're walking through wasn't accidental. It's not something that we've stumbled into when God was looking over there. It was a very clear path and a deliberate move that God led us into this storm you might be in, or the desert place you might be in. And it's part of the awakening of understanding God and understanding who we are and where we're at, and then learning to dare to ask for something like that. The musical side of Your Great Rescue was a little bit more of a challenge because I wrote it a long time ago, and when we came to production and I played it to the guys, I realized really how cheesy it sounded in some places. So I had to go back and rework it a little bit and come up with some fresher melodies and a new bridge. And I worked with a couple of friends on it, and we came up with sort of this weaving melody line and lines of lyrics and that you hear in the song today. And it was amazing to see this very private moment from a very painful season turning into, actually it was quite a joyful sound in the end that's got so many people involved in it, and it was a real kind of triumphant closure to that season and that moment that was painful to learn. But it's a good moment when you can understand that God has a reason and a purpose in everything that he leads us into, and to be able to capture that in the music and in the production was really amazing. My hope in all of my music, but also in this song, is that people will be provoked to think a little bit differently about how they're approaching things they're walking through in their lives. And Your Great Rescue is all about understanding that what we traditionally imagine to be a rescue plan sometimes is not the case, and it may be the very circumstance that you're walking through is the rescue plan. So the hope is really to challenge and provoke people to reassess their perspective on what they're walking through.